Okay, so we'll start lying down. So make your way onto your back. I'm just settling into a comfortable position on your back. So whether that's with legs out long or with knees bent and soles of the feet on the mat, just settling into whatever feels good for you. As you settle, have an awareness, bring an awareness to the back body. And an awareness of all the parts of the back body in contact with the ground. Checking also that the back of the neck is still long. So it can be easy as we lie down on the mat to end up with the chin kind of drawn up towards the ceiling quite a bit. So it's almost like we're tilting our head back. So if you notice that's happening and therefore the back of the neck is kind of curving back a little, so it's not quite as long, then you could draw the chin down a little towards the chest. So it's not that the chin needs to be drawn like all the way down to the chest, but just enough so that the back of the neck stays long. Bring your attention to your breath. Just observing the breath in its natural rhythm as it comes in, as it goes out. Noticing how the breath feels as it comes in through the nostrils, how it feels as it goes out through the nostrils. If you want to set an intention for your practice today, take a moment to do that now. Stay with the breath and start to use each exhale to cultivate a feeling of the front body softening and releasing down towards the back body. And a feeling of the back body softening, spreading, releasing into the ground. So just let the inhale come naturally. And then on the exhale, cultivating a feeling of softening and releasing from front body to back body into the ground. So it's not so much that you're consciously deciding to lengthen the exhale, but more that you're allowing the exhale to lead you and to do what feels right in terms of exploring and cultivating a feeling of as much softening and release in the body as you can. So the breath should still feel completely easeful. There shouldn't feel like there's any sense of effort in the breath. Softening, releasing, letting go on each exhale. And then allowing the inhale naturally to come, get to the bottom of the exhale, let the inhale come. Continue in this way. If you haven't already, you could also include in this feeling of release a a sense of the shoulders and the shoulder blades softening, releasing into the ground, maybe having your arms in a mountain pose kind of rotation, if that feels okay. So backs of the hands are resting on the ground. Last few rounds of breath in this way. Okay, letting that go, let the breath return to its natural rhythm. Observe the breath, stay with the breath as it settles. If you haven't already, now bend the knees and bring soles of the feet to the mat. Have the feet about shoulder width apart and take some windscreen wiper movements with the legs, easing the legs over to one side, back to center, over to the other side, back to center. Continue at your own pace, taking whatever range of movement feels right for you. Okay, come back to center. Just move the feet a little way in so that feet and knees are now hip width apart. On your next exhale, draw navel towards spine. Continue to breathe, but keep that action of navel towards spine, so that with that action, there's a feeling of the lower back drawing into the mat more. And at the same time, see if you can feel into a sense of the tailbone lengthening away from you a little. So really with that lengthening of the tailbone, what we're really finding is a tilt of the pelvis. So think about when we're stood in mountain pose and we cultivate that tilt of the pelvis by kind of instructing the body to lengthen the tailbone down towards the ground. So exactly the same action here. You're differently orientated, you're lying on your back, so it's a feeling now of the tailbone lengthening away from you so that you're bringing that slight tilt to the pelvis. So for the majority of the bodies, it will be a little bit of a backwards tilt to the pelvis. So in neutral, the pelvis tends to be naturally tilted forwards a little, so we're tilting it back a little. So it's navel towards spine, tailbone lengthening, so you've got that tilt in the pelvis. And with that tilt in the pelvis, you're keeping navel towards spine as well, as a way of kind of putting the brakes on a little bit too. So what you don't want is for the pelvis to tilt so far back that the sacrum, the sort of lowest part of the back, doesn't start to curl up off the mat. So you don't want to tilt the pelvis so far back that the lower part of the back is lifting up off the mat. You want the whole of the lower back in contact with the mat. Great, just let that go for a moment. So, and as you do so, notice the pelvis coming back into a neutral position, noticing perhaps a little bit more of a curve in the lower back, a bit more of a gap between the lower back and the mat. So just notice how that feels. Great, and then take that action again, navel towards spine, tailbone lengthening away, so you've got that tilt in the pelvis. Press the feet down into the mat. Keep the actions of navel towards spine and pelvis tilting so that as you press the feet into the mat a little more, that doesn't disturb the contact between the lower back and the mat. Maintain those actions. And now, from your arms being alongside you, on an inhale, lengthen the arms forward, so fingertips reaching forwards and up. And keep coming up until fingertips are reaching up to the ceiling. Great. So let's stay here for a few breaths. So as you inhale, focus on a feeling of the fingertips extending up towards the ceiling. And at the same time, on the exhale, a feeling of the shoulder blades, the shoulders releasing into the ground a little more. So you're kind of extending in two directions. It feels like the arms are lengthening from the shoulder joint up to the fingertips. So in a moment, what we're going to do is start to draw the arms back behind us. So when we do that, keep a focus on the lower back drawing into the mat, the pelvis tilting, maintain that. So if you start to lose that at any point and the pelvis starts going back into neutral, don't take the arms any further. And the other thing is you want to feel like the arms are lengthening back behind you. So it's not that you're in a rush to get the hands all the way back or anything like that, but more feel like you're lengthening into the space behind you. So when you're ready, start to extend the arms back behind you. So really as if the fingertips are really trying to reach towards the space behind you. And at the same time, see if you can still feel like the shoulders are drawing in the other direction to the fingertips. And just see where you get to. So it'll be very different for different bodies, depends what's going on in the shoulders to a fair degree and the lower back. So it might be that thumbs touch the ground. It might be that the arms are drawing a little way back past the ceiling point. Great. So what you want to feel here is length in the side body, length in the front body, and the lower back still drawing into the mat, the pelvis still tilting. If you've lost that, then draw the arms further up. Great. And then on an inhale, draw the arms back up so fingertips are up towards the ceiling. Then as you exhale, draw the arms back down alongside you. Great. Let the shoulders soften and release down. You can let the pelvis come back to a neutral position. Although if it feels more comfortable for the lower back to keep the lower back actively drawing into the mat, then by all means do that. Come back to the breath, observe the body. Okay, and then come back to that action of navel drawing towards spine, tailbone lengthening away so the pelvis is tilting. Arms are alongside the body in whatever way feels comfortable. And if that can be in a way that allows the shoulders to release down to the ground a little more, then great. Press the left foot into the mat more. Keep the action of navel towards spine and pelvis tilting so the lower back isn't disturbed by that action in the foot. And then on an inhale, lift the right foot up off the mat. Keep the right knee bent and let the right knee draw in towards you. So keep the arms alongside you as you do that. The lower part of the right leg and the right foot can be completely relaxed. On each exhale, cultivating a feeling of the right thigh releasing towards you. So it's a release, it's a softening. It's not that you're trying to force the thigh to come any closer towards you. It's an energetic sense of the thigh releasing. Great. Keep pressing down through the left foot. Keep navel towards spine. On an inhale, raise the right foot up. So you don't need to be straightening the leg completely here, kind of going to your maximum range, but raise the right leg up. As you next exhale, see if there's any scope for the right thigh to draw towards you anymore. Keep navel towards spine. Keep the lower back drawing into the mat. On your next exhale, draw the right leg over to the left until it's far enough over that you can then bring the right thigh to rest on top of the left thigh, and then you can let the lower part of the right leg release down. So you've got your legs crossed basically, like you might cross them if you were sat in a chair. Move the arms to rest on the ground at shoulder height, so arms can be out long or could be bent at the elbow. On your next exhale, draw the legs, the knees over to the left. So you then come to rest on the outer edge of the left foot, and maybe the inner edge of the right foot comes to the ground, or maybe it comes onto some height that you have in place. Check that this feels okay for the lower back. If it doesn't feel good on the lower back, draw back to center. Try taking the left foot further away from you so you haven't got quite such a deep bend at the hip joint, and then try drawing over to the left, see if that feels any better. If not, then stay in center. So a few more breaths here. Imagine now that you're breathing into the right hip. And as you breathe out, there's a feeling of the right hip softening, releasing down to the left hip, the lower back softening, releasing towards the ground. Inhale back to center. Press down through the left foot, navel drawing towards spine, lower back into the mat. Inhale, raise the right leg up, draw it back over to the right. And then exhale, bring sole of the right foot back down to the mat. Take the feet a bit wider and take some windscreen wiper movements with the legs again. Great. Come back to center. Feet and knees are hip width apart again. Find that action again of navel towards spine, lower back drawing into the mat as the tailbone lengthens. Keep that tilt of the pelvis. So keep as much focus as you can on the tilt of the pelvis. Inhale, lengthen the arms forwards and up. So see if you can try and find that feeling of lengthening in the arms from shoulder to fingertips as soon as you start moving them. So it's like you're lengthening them forwards, and that then becomes a lengthening up into the space above you. Great. And then exploring now, maybe the arms lengthening further back behind you. Remember, if at any point you lose that tilt of the pelvis, then that's a sign that you've taken the arms too far back. The point isn't how far back can you take the arms. The point is to explore where you can take the arms to while still keeping that tilt in the pelvis. Extend through the fingertips. So the fingers are extending in one direction and the shoulders are extending in the other direction. Even if that feels like something that doesn't feel possible in the body, just feel into it, imagine it. Great. Inhale, draw the arms back up so fingertips are up towards the ceiling. And as you exhale, lengthen the arms forwards and down. So try and keep that sense of lengthening in the arms as you come all the way back down. Great. If you want to let the pelvis go to neutral for a moment to just rest that action, feel free to. If you feel best keeping it in place, then do that. Okay, and now have navel drawing towards spine again, lower back into the mat, pelvis tilted. Press down through the right foot, so arms are just resting alongside you. And on an inhale, lift the left foot up, keep the left knee bent, and on an exhale, let the left knee release in towards you. So keep the arms alongside you. Use an exhale to cultivate a feeling of the left thigh, the left knee softening, releasing. Keep pressing down through the right foot, keep navel towards spine. And on an inhale, raise the left leg up, left foot up, sorry. As you exhale, see if the thigh might release towards you a little. So as you raise that left foot up, you want to try and keep the thigh releasing towards you. So it's not that the leg needs to be really straight, just you're raising it up enough to give you space for the movement we're about to take. Great. On your next exhale, draw the left leg over towards the right until you've got the space to bring the left thigh on top of the right thigh, and then you can let the lower part of the leg relax. Great. Move the arms so they're at shoulder height, resting on the ground at shoulder height. And then when you're ready, use an exhale to draw the legs over to the right. Great, so you're coming on to the outer edge of the right foot. Make sure the lower back feels okay. Any issues there, come back to center. Take the right foot further away from you and try it from there. Have a feeling of the hips and the lower back softening and releasing down. Letting go of holding and tension. On your next inhale, draw back to center. Press down through the right foot, navel towards spine. Inhale the left foot up, draw the leg back across to the left, and exhale the sole of the left foot to the mat. Take a moment to take it just a few more windscreen wiper movements with the legs, so you can take the feet a bit wider if you want for that. Okay, come back to center. And then take your time to make your way up to all fours. So you might roll to one side, push yourself up from there, but come up in whatever way feels right for you. No rush, just know that once you are in your all fours, then you're taking some cat-cow movements at your own pace. So just easing in with some cat-cows. Each inhale, shoulders drawing back, chest drawing forwards, tailbone tipping up. Each exhale, middle of the spine curls up towards the ceiling as the head releases down, as the tailbone lengthens down. So see if you can have an awareness here of what's going on with the pelvis. So just keep doing the movements as you'd normally do them, but just bring your awareness to the pelvis, and awareness of the tilt of the pelvis in one way and the other way as you take these movements. Of course, everything is interrelated, and when it comes to the joints in the body, you know, if there is stuckness in a certain place, then that can impact on range of movement in all kinds of ways. And the pelvic area and the hip joints in particular is just useful in your practice to perhaps have an awareness of what's going on anatomically, you know, when we're kind of maybe struggling to, you know, make a certain movement, then kind of having an awareness of what parts of the body might need to move in some way, or what parts of the body our brains will tend to try and move out the way for us. It can be helpful to just increase our awareness of that. So just here in your cat-cow, so movement you've done plenty of times before, just a real awareness of what movement is going on in the pelvis as you take these actions. Great. Okay, come back to center. So from your all fours now, take your hands further forwards. So perhaps like just a hand's length forward, maybe a little bit more, perhaps like a length and a half of your hands further forwards. So hips are still above the knees. Hands are further forwards than the shoulders. So with the hands further forwards than the shoulders, there's more scope to really actively press the hands into the mat. Imagine that you're trying to push the ground away from you, and see if you can feel into a sense of extending in two directions. So think about when we were extending the arms up to the ceiling and then extending them back behind us. Same kind of principle here, that the hands are pressing in one direction. Can you have a feeling of the shoulders drawing back in the other direction? So it's not that you're pushing yourself back, the hips are staying above the knees. It's not that you're rounding the back is staying flat. It's that the energy, the kind of rebound energy from that press of the hand, feels like it is drawing along the arms and lengthening the arms. So it feels like the shoulders, the shoulder blades are drawing further back from the wrists. See if you can feel into that in any way. Great. So you've kind of tuned into the energy created by that press of the hands. And now we're going to use that energy on an exhale to draw the bum back towards the heels. So pressing into the hands, drawing the bum back towards the heels. Try and keep that feeling of the arms lengthened as well. So there's a lengthening from wrist to shoulders, and then a lengthening from shoulders down the side body to the hips. Okay, so here, you don't have to, the forehead doesn't need to make it to the mat, bum doesn't need to make it to the heels. We're in a kind of variation of extended child's pose. But from here, feel as if the hands are trying to drag back towards your knees, but you're not going to let them move. Draw navel towards spine, and on an inhale, start to draw forwards. Go slowly. So as the bum draws up away from the heels, keep navel towards spine, and notice the point at which you can start to find a bit more of a tilt back of the pelvis, like you would if you were in mountain pose. So tailbone is lengthening away from you, pelvis is tilting back, and keep drawing forwards until shoulders are above wrist. So you're coming into your low plank. So this is the point where you might find out whether your hands are too far away from you or too close to you. So just for a moment now, press into the hands, draw back so that you can then kneel up or sit back on your heels just to watch for a moment, and then we'll come back into this pose. So in your low plank, the key things to be experiencing are navel towards spine and that lengthening of the tailbone so the pelvis is tilting back. So just the same thing as we were exploring on our back. So that's the key action you want to maintain. So you're keeping this length in the lower back, you're keeping containment and support around the abdominal and pelvic area. The other thing you want is for shoulders to be directly above the wrists. They could even be beyond the wrists if your wrists are happy with that. That kind of opens up the wrists a little more, which might be a welcome thing. But you want them at least over the wrists, not further back. So you can really press the ground away from you with the hands. And you want to feel like there's a kind of a strong straight line of energy from knee to shoulder on each side. So it doesn't matter what it looks like, but that's how it feels for you, that this is a strong straight line of energy. So if, for example, I had my hands too far back towards my knees, so if you're kind of looking at me here, so if I come to shoulders above wrists, I haven't really got that much going on in terms of abdominal activation. You know, I've kind of tilted my pelvis as much as I can, but I don't feel like I've got like a straight line going from knee to shoulder here. There's a definite bend at the hip. Whereas if I go a little bit further forwards, now I've got that feeling of a line from knee to shoulder. I can feel a lot more abdominal activation. I can feel like I've got more scope to really tilt the pelvis back. If my hands are too far away from my knees, then the first clue for that will be that I just can't get far enough forwards for shoulders to be above the wrists. Like I reach my limit. And the other thing that may happen is that because I can't tilt my pelvis anymore, then I may start to collapse down here. So I lose that abdominal and pelvic support, and I'm collapsing into the lower back. So this is definitely what we want to avoid. We don't want to be collapsing into the lower back. We want to keep that engagement. So with that in mind, come back into your low plank. So you can start setting up by being in all fours, and then take the hands a bit further forwards, and just try that out for a moment until you kind of feel that you've got your hands in the right place. And as you come forwards into your low plank, take those actions: navel towards spine, pelvis tilting, and then when shoulders are above wrist, push the mat away from you. Great. Okay. Use the press of the hands now on an exhale to draw bum back towards heels, forehead down towards the mat. Stay active through the hands. We're not staying in extended child's pose. As you inhale, start to draw forwards. Try and go slowly as you draw forwards back into your plank pose. Notice the point at which you can really start to find that tilt of the pelvis again. Great. And then as you exhale, press into the hands, use that press to draw the bum back towards the heels, and keep going at your own pace. So drawing back on the exhale and then drawing forwards into your low plank on the inhale. And see if you can see how slowly you can take this. So the slower you go, the more awareness you can bring to what's going on. And again, particularly focus on the pelvis, like what you can notice is going on in the pelvis. The more you can focus on that and have an awareness of, for example, the point at which, as you draw forwards, you can really find that tilt of the pelvis, the point at which that the navel towards spine really kicks in terms of supporting you, and so on. The other thing is, with moving more slowly, is that you're creating more opportunity for the kind of contraction in the muscles, particularly around this abdominal area, that's really good for strengthening. Great. Next time you draw bum back towards the heels, then pause there and make your way into a child's pose that feels right for you. So if it feels good to stay active, you could keep the hands in front of you, keep pressing into the hands in an extended child's pose. If it feels good to release more now, you can take the arms back behind you, or you could have forearms underneath the forehead. Breathe into the space in the back body. And as you exhale, have a feeling of the shoulders, the hips softening and releasing down. Great. Bring palms of the hands to the mat alongside the head. Use an inhale to draw yourself up. We're going to make our way up to standing via a downward dog and a forward fold. If doing that on the mat isn't right for your practice today, you can come to the wall now and come into downward dog variation at the wall, and then from there you'll be able to walk hands down the wall into your forward fold. So either be at the wall in downward dog now, or from the mat, make your way into downward dog. So when you do that, so I'm not going to talk you through in detail coming into downward dog today, but what I invite you to do is keep your awareness centered around your pelvis as you come into your downward dog. Just noticing. So there's no, there's no trick here. There's no kind of thing that you should be noticing. Just having an awareness of the pelvis, of the position of the pelvis in your downward dog. Pressing the hands into the mat or into the wall, and the hips lengthening back. So think about that lengthening work we did through the arms. See if you can feel into that same sense of the rebound energy from the hands lengthening all the way along the arms, and then you're continuing that along the side body to the hips. Great. If you're on the mat, start to walk your hands back towards your feet. If you're at the wall, you can walk hands down the wall. Make your way into your forward fold. So hips are then lengthening up away from the heels. Super. On your next inhale, draw the chest forwards and halfway up. So you're coming to a halfway lift. Palms of the hands rest on the front of the legs. Shoulders draw back, chest draws forward. Sit bones draw back. So there's a feeling here of the chest lengthening further away from the pelvis, finding more length in the front body. And at the same time, there's a feeling of the sit bones drawing back towards the space behind you. So extension in two directions. Exhale back down to your forward fold. Bring your hands onto your hips. Bring a bit more of a bend to the knees. And then as you inhale, draw the chest forwards and come all the way up to standing. Great. Come to step to the top of your mat. Come into your mountain pose. Observe the breath. If you set an intention at the start of your practice, take a moment to recall that now. On your next inhale, sweep your arms up to shoulder height, palms facing forward. So arms are sweeping out to the side, up to shoulder height, and then palms are facing forwards. Just check that as you took that movement with the arms, you've still got the lengthening of the tailbone, tilt of the pelvis, navel towards spine in your mountain pose. So think about when you were lying on your back and when we were on all fours exploring those actions, find them again here. On your next exhale, draw the arms forwards, right arm comes above left, bring the hands round to the shoulders so you're giving yourself a hug. So hands might be on the side of the shoulders, they might be further back round towards the shoulder blades. It'd be different for different bodies. As you next exhale, see if you can allow the tops of the shoulders to soften down away from the ears more. So it's this action of the shoulders drawing down away from the ears that's giving us the opportunity to find a bit more space and openness in the shoulders. So you might notice and feel that around the shoulder blades or some of the muscles around the tops of the shoulders. Breathe into the space between the shoulder blades in the back body, the back of the heart space. And as you exhale, focus on the release of the shoulders, tops of the shoulders away from the ears. On your next inhale, sweep the arms out to the sides. Exhale, draw the arms forwards, left arm above right. So you're giving yourself a hug the other way round. And again, on each exhale, tops of the shoulders drawing down away from the ears. Inhale into the space between the shoulder blades at the back. Inhale, sweep the arms out to the sides. Exhale the arms down alongside you. Take a few rolls of the shoulders if that feels good. Be back in your mountain pose. And again, in your mountain pose, as we've been doing throughout this practice, bring your awareness in particular to the pelvis. So be really conscious of the action of the pelvis tilting back. So that action of tailbone drawing down towards the mat Notice how that affects the tilt of the pelvis. Navel towards spine. So keep your focus here. And just as when we were lying on the mat and we wanted to kind of preserve this action of the pelvis tilting back, preserve it now and keep your focus there as you inhale and draw the arms forwards and up. So this movement with the shoulders, any movement with the shoulders can very easily tend to result in a movement of the pelvis, because the body will try and move the pelvis to give you more openness and scope in the shoulders. So what we're wanting to do is keep the pelvis in position, and actually what that will do is help us create more openness in the shoulders over time, because if the pelvis moves out the way, so the classic thing that happens is as we take the arms forwards and up is that, although I'm exaggerating it, but is that the pelvis will tilt forwards rather than tilting back, which is what we've been doing. The pelvis will tilt forwards, will push into the lower back, and then, you know, we can kind of maybe get the arms all the way back here. But the shoulders aren't having to do any work, whereas if we stay here with the pelvis tilting back in our mountain pose action, then the shoulders are kind of forced to do a bit more work if they're wanting to get any further back. So last few breaths with the arms raised, fingertips drawing up, pelvis tilting back, navel towards spine. So we're feeling, with the fingertips reaching up towards the ceiling, there's a feeling of lift in the chest here. Inhale from the base of the spine all the way up the spine into the chest, and feel like that lift of the chest extends all the way through to the fingertips, like the fingertips are an expression of that lift in the chest. Okay, turn the palms to face outwards. Exhale, sweep the arms out to the sides and down. Take a roll of the shoulders to ease out. Be in your mountain pose again, really active with that tilt back of the pelvis, navel towards spine. Inhale up the spine into the chest. Exhale, tops of the shoulders softening down. Feel that softening travel all the way down through to the soles of the feet. So at the top of each inhale, you're cultivating a feeling of the chest lifting up and lengthening away from the top of the pubic bone. So you're finding a greater sense of length in the front body, but you're not losing anything in the back body. So as the chest lifts, you're not then allowing the pelvis to tilt forward to then allow more lift in the chest. You're keeping the pelvis tilted back and then finding that lift in the chest. And I'm kind of showing you this, but just for exaggerated for effect. So there might not be any perceptible physical movement of the chest, but internally, energetically, there's a feeling of lift in the chest. So continue with this pattern of breath, and one more time now, on an inhale, sweep the arms forwards and up. So it really feels like that extension up of the arms is an extension of that feeling of lift in the chest. If you're wanting to refine further, you could explore the feeling of lengthening from shoulder to fingertips. So fingertips extending up towards the ceiling, and at the same time a feeling of the shoulders drawing down in the opposite direction. So that sense of the tops of the shoulders drawing away from the ears. Chest lifting, tailbone lengthening down. Great, turn the palms to face outwards. Exhale, sweep the arms out to the sides and all the way down. Take one more roll of the shoulders. You're back in your mountain pose. Bring your awareness to your back body. So if it feels comfortable to you, you can have your eyes closed here. or just to have your gaze a little softer. Have your awareness in your back body, heels, backs of the legs, the bum, the lower back, shoulder blades, back of the neck, back of the head, back of the arms and hands. Bring the weight back into the heels more. So keep the awareness in the back body. Let the weight come back into the heels more. If you've got the eyes closed, you could try and have a sense of the eyeballs kind of softening back into the eye sockets a bit, rather than them being quite so kind of pressed up against the eyelids at the front. And with the weight back in the heels, maybe you might lift the toes up off the mat to encourage the weight back in the heels, and then you can bring them back down, but try and have the weight back into the heels. You could open the eyes now at this point if you want to, or if you prefer to practice with eyes closed, then continue. Okay, so from here, keep with this key action of tailbone lengthening and pelvis tilting back. So don't lose that. As we now exhale and start to lower the bum down, as if there were a stool behind you and you were lowering yourself very slowly into it. So only go as far as your pelvis will allow you to go, with the pelvis still tilting back. So note, like, the body will probably really want to tilt the pelvis forwards a bit so you can get lower down. Don't let that happen. So I know for me, like, if you're able to look at the screen now, you can see, like, this is as far as I go. You know, like, I can't move any further down with the pelvis still in this position. So here we kind of need to move the pelvis out of the way a bit if we're going to get lower down here, but we don't want to take the pelvis forwards and push into the lower back. We want to keep that length in the lower back. But what we can do is keep the pelvis tilting back and start to draw the chest forwards and down a little. So the pelvis is actually coming forwards a bit, but it's still tilted back, if that makes sense. You can kind of feel it in your body. So chest draws forwards and down a little, and then see if you can lower down a bit more. And then on an inhale, find that lift in the chest, that lengthening of the chest away from the top of the pubic bone. So you're keeping that length in the front body. As you exhale, maybe the chest draws forwards and down a little bit more. And maybe you lower down a bit more. Try and keep the weight back in the heels and just explore that for a few more breaths. Wonderful. And what you can also do now at this point is take the arms forwards, so they're at shoulder height with fingertips reaching forwards, and that can be quite a nice counterbalance as well. Super. So you're in your chair pose. Great. Okay, so keep the knees bent as they are. And as you exhale, draw the chest forwards and down till the belly comes to rest on the thighs, and you can let the arms, the head, the neck release down. Press into the feet, and on an inhale, draw the hips up towards the ceiling so you're in a standing forward fold. Great, take a few breaths there. Okay, so from our forward fold, we're going to come back into chair pose. So to do that, exhale, lower the bum down, so you've got that bend in the knees again. And then on an inhale, start to draw the chest forwards and up. And as soon as you can, once you've got the space to, find that tilt of the pelvis. Find navel towards spine, but most of all, find that tilt of the pelvis, the lengthening of the tailbone. And then you can take the arms forwards, fingertips reaching forwards. And as you next inhale, see if you can find a bit more lift of the chest up away from the pubic bone. And you might even take the arms a little further up if that feels okay. So watch out with the arms going up. Remember the relationship between the movement around the shoulders and the impact on the pelvis. So don't take the arms so far up that you lose the pelvis. Great, really good. Okay, press into the feet. Use the press of into the feet to then lengthen up through the legs. So you're straightening up through the legs, through the push of the feet, come all the way up to standing, and then exhale the arms down. Great. there's all sorts, just as in any pose, there's all sorts to explore in chair pose, and that's quite a lot that we're exploring. There are other things that we could explore, but just really kind of tuning into the pelvis in particular, and what's going on in the pelvis in chair pose can be really helpful. So we'll take chair pose one more time as a precursor to folding forwards and then coming down onto the mat. If you're done with chair pose, then you could skip that part and come straight into a forward fold. So be at the top of your mat if you're not already. Prepare for your chair pose. So first of all, be in your mountain pose. Bring your awareness to your back body. Make sure that you've really got that tilt of the pelvis as the pelvis is tilting backwards, tailbones lengthening down, navel towards spine. And that's where you're keeping as much of your focus as you can. Bring the weight back into the heels. When you're ready, on an exhale, start to lower the bum down. So let's take this stage by stage again. Lower it as far as it will go, as the pelvis will let it go. Great. And then on your next exhale, draw the chest forwards and down a little. Inhale, find that lift of the chest away from the pubic bone. So you're not shortening the front body as you draw it forwards. And then on your next exhale, maybe see if the bum will lower down a little more. Inhale, find that lift of the chest, maybe a bit more lengthening of the tailbone. So keep revisiting the tilt of the pelvis. Exhale, chest drawing forwards and down. Inhale, lift of the chest, tilt of the pelvis. Exhale, bum lowering down. Great. And sorry, I forgot to mention you could take the arms out as well if you want to here, either right in front of you or take them further up. Great. And then on your next exhale, draw the chest forwards and down, draw belly to the thighs, let the shoulders, the arms release down, let the head and the neck release down, press into the feet, and on an inhale, draw the hips up towards the ceiling. Exhale in your forward fold. Take a few breaths in your forward fold now. Any variations of forward fold that feel good? Maybe you take hold of opposite elbows. Maybe it feels good to have the arms releasing down, or any other variations of forward fold that are in your practice. If it feels comfortable to you, you could lengthen the exhale, cultivating a feeling on each exhale of softening, releasing, letting go. Right, from your forward fold, plant the hands on the mat. Use an inhale to really bring the weight, press into the hands, bring weight into the hands. And then as you exhale, step the right foot and the left foot back, draw the hips up and back to come to your downward dog. From your downward dog, exhale, knees to the mat. And then walk the hands back towards you, bum comes onto the heels. So you come to sitting on heels. And from there, make your way onto your back. So we're coming towards Shavasana. Just before we make our way into full Shavasana, taking some time to hug knees into the chest. So no rush. If you're grabbing anything you need for your Shavasana, feel free to do that first. And then just know we'll meet hugging knees into the chest, one hand on each knee, and taking the knees a bit wider apart. So the knees are drawing in the direction of each armpit. Or using each exhale to cultivate a feeling of the thighs softening and releasing towards you. And as you do that, perhaps increasingly a feeling of the hips, the back body, the shoulders softening and releasing down. Either stay here, or if you want to take, this is a variation of happy baby pose. If you want to take a different variation, then keep the knees drawing towards the armpits as they are. Release the hands from the knees and extend the arms out in front of you so the arms are between the knees. And then grab hold of the ankles if you can. See if you can bring the feet close enough to you so that you can then grip hold of the outer edge of each foot with each hand. So that's ideal because then you can really press the hands in, the feet into the hands. If that's not available to you, then keep the grip around somewhere around the legs or the ankles, the outer edge of the legs if you can. And then on an inhale, draw the soles of the feet up towards the ceiling. So knees stay bent. So there's then a feeling of the soles of the feet pressing up towards the ceiling, whilst the knees are drawing down towards the mat. Breathe into the space in the front body, the belly, the chest. And as you exhale, a feeling of the hips and the shoulders softening and releasing down towards the mat or into the mat. If you've got the feet raised, if you're in the second variation of a happy baby pose, then exhale the feet back down now and bring the hands back onto the knees so you're in the original position. And from there, draw the knees back together, draw navel towards spine, and then exhale the feet to the mat, bring the arms back alongside you. And from there, make your way into your Shavasana. So coming to whatever position feels right for you in this moment, feels right for your body, so you can soften, release, let go of effort in the body and allow the ground to hold you. So maybe it feels supportive for the lower back to have the knees bent and feet on the mat, perhaps with the knees together and the feet out wider. Maybe it feels really good to have the legs out long with the feet kind of flopping out to the sides. Maybe it feels good to have mountain pose rotation in the arms so the shoulders can release down a little more. Just explore what feels right for you. Take your time to settle. Allow yourself a few exhales of cultivating a feeling of softening and release of the back body down into the ground. Now letting go of any sense of controlling the breath. Allow the ground to hold your body, letting go of any sense of effort or holding in the body. And bring your attention fully to your breath. Just observing the breath in its natural rhythm as it comes in, as it goes out. Knowing that this space is held for you while you do that. Starting to bring some deeper breaths into your body. Slowly bringing some movement back to your body, maybe wiggling fingers and toes. Perhaps rotating wrists and ankles. Taking any movements now, any stretches, sighs, anything that feels good as you bring your full awareness back to your body. Taking your time to make your way back up to a comfortable seated position, having your eyes closed or your gaze soft as you do that. If you set an intention at the start of your practice, take a moment to recall that now. Bringing palms of the hands together in front of the heart. Take a moment to be grateful to yourself for making the time for this practice today. And a moment for us to be grateful that we have this practice of yoga available to us, and that we have this means of connection available so we can gather and practice together in this way. If you want to, you could take a moment to think of anything else that you're grateful for right now. Bowing your head towards your fingertips. Releasing your hands. Raising your head whenever you're ready. Thanks, guys. Lovely to practice with you.